today's LinkedIn Live. I'm pretty excited to have our guest today, Thack Brown, who's the COO for SAP North America. I've always known you as SAP, but in doing a little research for this, one of the SAP formal writings that I read said, this is not SAP, it's SAP. So like, okay, SAP. So Thack is the COO for SAP North America. They are a truly global organization, right? We all know them as this giant software organization, 110,000 worldwide employees, 155 nationalities, and over 27 billion euros in revenue in 2021. So thank you so much for joining me. And just once again, congratulations on that beautiful background that you have. You're in Miami today, right?
That's right. Thank you, Karen. It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for inviting me on.
So apologies for the flickering camera. I'll just do what I can to make sure it can focus on me. But in fact, maybe we could start by you just talking about what is the sort of the scope of a COO for North America for a company as large as SAP. I'm assuming it's primarily go-to-market, but would love to hear about your scope.
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you, Karen. So yeah, my role as the COO for North America is really focused on the customer. So I am responsible for setting the strategy and then the execution of our customer lifecycle management. So everything from early stage engagement with a customer through selection, through implementation of our software and systems, ongoing running is, the systems that we run are typically with customers for years, if not decades. And so the management of our customer life cycle and keeping that fresh and being there to support our customers in their most mission critical systems 24/7 is a key part of our business. And that's basically what the job is responsible for.
Oh, wow. So I know you just had your big Sapphire conference and you got to do it in person. Maybe it was a little reduced, but still in person. And I'm just wondering what it was like to finally be able to have a gathering like that after a couple of years of missing it.
Yeah, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. To your point, it had been 2 years that we hadn't done it. That's always been our marquee event. We did change it a little bit this year, but mostly scaling it down from being a very heavily global event to be mostly focused on North America, which was really. And honestly, the response that we got from our customers was amazing. We didn't really know exactly what to expect when you talk about getting, upwards of 10,000 people into a physical location post-pandemic. You don't really know who's really going to come or not. But they absolutely loved it. We loved it. And we just had some really amazing moments in the middle of it where we actually had SAP team members who were introducing customers to their own internal teams, folks who had been working together remotely for years and had never met physically, and this was their first opportunity to do it. And it was so wonderful. It just reaffirmed the importance of what we are as human beings and that interpersonal relationship and really being able to get together and build those close personal relationships. So it was as much of that as it was about the business, and in the end it was just a fantastic event.
Yeah, I think many of us, if not most of us, are eager to be able to get back out and do those kinds of things again. And from my clients who were there, I've just heard really wonderful things about it. So congrats on making that happen. So from your perch, you have a broad overview of lots of different industries. And I'm curious about industry trends that you see, maybe including the evolution of the cloud as of course, digital transformation has accelerated and you were right in the thick of that. So what are some trends that you've seen?
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful question. I mean, obviously, digital continues to drive pretty much everything across every industry. And so, of course, you see many companies in the process of rebalancing their portfolios, product services, or businesses that they manage. And so trying to figure out where they're going to go in a post-pandemic world is really important. But most of that is taking the lessons from the pandemic world and maybe hard pivots to more online, digital commerce, other forms of engagement, and now bringing that and melding that back into the traditional business as traditional businesses pick back up again and flourish again. And so trying to figure out what those new models look like. You continue to see a very strong trend from companies moving their services to more of sort of what we call a subscription based, outcome based.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That is alive and very, very strong. And again, if anything else, it is accelerating. And I think the really interesting element that comes out of everything is how much the pandemic has taught us about how much we can change and transform very quickly when we focus on it and really work at it. And we
Yeah.
saw numerous examples of companies who were executing what would have normally been multi-year strategies in 6 months as a result of the pandemic and getting amazing results out of it. And I think it reinforced for many how much, in particular, the underlying technologies have evolved and the technology capabilities to support broad based business model change and new business models.
Mm.
And so that is sort of reframing for many organizations what they can do, where they need to go, the urgency with which they need to move. And then you asked a little bit about the cloud side. Of course,
Mhm.
cloud being a much faster delivery vehicle for that technology, for that transformation platform, as well as much easier to consume future innovation. And that is really what the cloud
Mm.
is about: fast time to value, and then the ability to continuously consume new innovation quickly so that your business continues to scale and evolve based on the opportunity and the latest capabilities that are available.
Yeah. So, not to give SAP a commercial moment here, but it also underscores the importance of having the right partner to do those things with, right? Because, I mean, as we all know, what we went through the last 2.5 years or so, so many people found that they didn't have a partner that could react as quickly or scale. And I've talked to just,
Absolutely.
a number of leaders on this program who, really understood the mettle of their company when they saw how they reacted to supporting their clients and customers. So,
Undeniably. And I would think to that point, one of the things you see, for example, with supply chains have traditionally, from a technology point of view, been very fragmented. The supply chain itself, though it's been very streamlined down, driven for a lot of efficiency, when you look at a lot of the underlying tools, they've become very fragmented. And so many companies got an unwelcome wake up call
mm,
during the pandemic when suddenly they realized they needed that deep integration and being able to look at processes end to end. And they maybe already knew it, but they'd kind of been kicking that can down the road. It wasn't a hyper urgent thing to do. And so those sorts of experiences now are informing a little bit more in terms of partnership, how we really think about the business and we think about the integration of technologies and who we do partner with. It doesn't mean everybody's going to a single technology platform. That's not
yeah.
practical, but it does mean a lot of rationalization, a lot of rethinking what is very strategic and important. So these have all been important trends that we've seen over the last couple of years and that are just continuing.
Mm, great. That just reminds me, you talk about partnership. I spoke with Daniel Schmidt, who's the Chief Sustainability Officer for SAP last year, in a really fabulous conversation, a big fan. And I'm curious, in the Americas, in your area, how are you partnering with your clients and customers to help roll
Mhm.
out and help them incorporate better best practices in terms of sustainability?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been very interesting. Prior to this role, I was in a global role. And in that role, I had a much closer exposure to Europe and other
Mhm.
areas of the world that were really further down the path in thinking about
Right.
sustainability. And, it was a topic for US companies, but it wasn't really yet sort of a top 3 to 5 investment area level of priority for US companies. And the last couple of years have seen a really radical change in that regards. And I think, in particular, how we're trying to address it, we're not trying to be the smartest people in the room around sustainability. We recognize that we have a very unique position
Mm.
in that our systems driving manufacturing, supply chain, financials, people, there's so many aspects that go into sustainability where our systems are incredibly relevant, that there's an important role that we play in the work that we do and what we are looking to do in building sustainability into those tools natively so
Yeah.
that all companies can take advantage of them. But there is so much around the edges, and we have such a thriving and important ecosystem, whether that be folks like the Boston Consulting Group, or it would be partners like Ernst& Young or PwC. There are multiple partners, larger and smaller, who have incredible IP around
Mm.
the sustainability topic and in different areas. And so a lot of what we're looking to do, in addition to embedding this into our own system and tools, is opening our platform up so that this broad ecosystem can innovate on that platform, innovate together with customers, and bring that to the world so that we create the vehicle to really accelerate and make that progress exponential versus being a little bit more step function if we were to try and
Yeah.
do it all ourselves.
Yeah. Wonderful. So I'd like to turn now to sort of internally at SAP. I know as in your role, you were one of the key players helping to roll out SAP's flexible work policies as well as their future of work plans. How did you determine what a successful flexible work plan looked like? And I mean, you can just take us through that process and sort of where you ended up.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thank you. I guess first, we've been doing some form of flexible work now for decades. So, being in the tech space, we have that luxury. We've had plenty of folks who have worked full time or part time remote for many years. And so, we were fortunate coming into the pandemic. We already had an infrastructure, a tool set, and a background with how we could execute that model. And so, we weren't starting from zero. And so, that was a very nice, advantageous position to be in. But beyond that is, we were forced into that more flexible work during COVID. A lot of what informed us was just listening to our employees. What was critical for us was being close to the employees, talking to them on a regular basis, whether that was direct outreach. We do a lot as well via surveys.
Mhm.
So we do multiple surveys that go across the entire population every single year that allow us to collect very broad based feedback. So we started putting those questions into the surveys in addition to the discussions that we were having with employees so that we could hear what was really concerning to them, how they were doing in adapting, and what were they looking for. And it started coming through really, really clearly. When we can talk about it a little bit more, there were very specific areas where they needed help and support. And so we could tailor support for them to help make sure that they could deal with the stresses and the difficulties in the pandemic. But at the same time, many of them saying, hey, this is working out really, and it wasn't a matter of people, swapping out. We talk about it a lot, people putting on their pajamas and just laying in
Right.
bed and working. That's not what people were doing, right? People were taking advantage of that extra time to do other things, whether it was engaging in the community or engaging family and all of those sorts of things. But they were very, very engaged. And that led us to the conclusion we really need to think about this as a long-term permanent model
Mm.
for the company. And we'll continue to work through what the right balance is, and it will be different based on different areas or different roles, different cultures. But we have essentially said to the employees, we are going to ensure that we give you this flexibility on a permanent basis long term, and we're going to work with you to give that flexibility and make it work for both parties. And the results have been fantastic. If you took just simple things, I mean, technology is really hot right now. And if we look, for example, at our retention rates have been very strong the whole way through the
Mm.
pandemic. And we know that this policy and what we've been doing with employees has been one of the really key pillars for maintaining that.
Yeah. Well, it can be so difficult to find the right balance being at home and being with others. We were just talking about Sapphire and how wonderful it was to come together. And yeah, there are so many wonderful things about being able to do your role as we are both doing in this moment from our homes. So I'm curious here in the Americas, have you landed on, everybody needs to be in the office on Wednesdays? Is it team based? Sort of what have you come up with here?
Yeah, we're doing a couple of things. I mean, first and foremost, we're leaving that up to the individual leaders.
Okay.
So we want the leaders and their teams to come up with what is right for their teams and their organizations. And we absolutely do. We have some folks who are saying, okay, look, we really want everybody here Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for collaboration, or on Wednesdays, because that's going to be the big day that we do. There's different flavors that are coming up, and we're not trying to centrally control that. This is a moment of innovation, and in a moment of innovation, one of the things that I've always loved about the company, and one of the key reasons why I came to SAP, is the quality of the people in the company. And so we want to give the people and the leaders the opportunity and flexibility to come up a little bit with what model is right and what really works for us. So, but at the same time, we are doing other things. We are working at, for example, how we reformat our physical locations
Mhm.
to make them more adaptable to collaboration
Mhm.
and bringing teams in and brainstorming and the sorts of work that you really need to be physically together. So we've started piloting in different places new formats to see how that works
Great.
for the employees. We have folks doing things, offer a happy hour at the end of a day, to make something special for everybody to come in and have an opportunity to re-engage. But one of the things, I was actually talking with one of our key leaders just the other week, and we had just gotten together right before Sapphire for a key internal leadership meeting. And he said to me, I didn't realize how much I've missed this engagement and being in the office after several years of being away. We've lost a little bit of that. And now that we're doing this, I realize I'm going to make the extra effort to be in a couple of days a week so that I can get back with the team and really re-engage. And I see how wonderful this is. So it's clear that it's not going to be an either or. There's going to be a blend for everybody going forward.
Yes. Well, and I think the word you used over and over again, flexibility, is the key. I think companies that try to be rigid with this are mostly going to miss the bus, and it's too
Absolutely.
bad. So
Yes.
we definitely need those relationships. I think relationship with manager is the number one reason that people either stay or leave an organization. Not that all those other things aren't also important, but it's hard to build social capital like this the way that we can in person, and yet we need to be able to do both. So what advice do you have for business leaders who are looking to create and or implement a flexible work policy in their organizations?
Yeah, I mean, a lot would go back to the experience that I just talked about.
Mhm.
First and foremost is listening to your people. They will give you
Mm.
a really clear view on what they think they need. And then you have to be open to experiment. Test it with people. I would also say that one of the big things that I talked about a little bit before was really important for us was how we support employees in these environments.
Mhm.
And we did an awful lot of things through the pandemic in helping people, especially around mental health and wellness, that was really important for employees to ensure that they could really, if they needed time out or if they needed support based on challenges they were having with the family or just the environment overall, whatever it was, that they could have that. So you need to think about your
Mm.
benefit structure and how you can create a benefit structure for times like these. That is really, really important, was a critical part of our success. The other thing that I would point to is making sure you can find fun ways for people to stay engaged no matter what the model is. So we had, again, the flexibility and the creativity of our teams. You had folks doing Peloton challenges for their teams or between our market units. So the East Coast challenging the West Coast, to a Peloton challenge, which was great to see. We were doing, online wine tastings in evenings, just doing all sorts of things to allow team building and engagement to stay strong, even in that remote environment. And again, I think these will be learnings we will take, that even
Mm.
though folks will be getting back together again physically more, we are now more spread out. We are now more open to people being remote. And so finding a blend of these capabilities that fits and keeps people engaged on an ongoing basis is also really important. The last one that I would mention that I think has been really, really amazing to see is sort of raising up and celebrating some of the amazing things that our team members have done through flexible work.
Mm.
And so by having that flexibility, we've seen people pursue other activities outside of the workplace that have been incredibly impactful. We have a gentleman by the name of Stephen, for example, who started up something he calls the US Poppy Fund. And it is focused on supporting veterans, first
Mm.
responders, and service dogs to help them get financial assistance or development opportunities, education opportunities. This was a passion of his that he brought forward and created this nonprofit that can go out and drive this help for folks. And you see things like that that are really
Mm.
large in scale, And then others like Jackie Montesinos, who's our head of communications for North America. So ever since I've known Jackie, she has been passionate about running. She is an avid runner. And so she's taken advantage of flex work to be able to engage kids in the community and run workshops and programs over multiple weeks that gets them into running and gets them excited about physical activity and being outside. And that's been incredibly impactful. And so being able to showcase some of these wonderful examples of how people take advantage of flex work to do more has been really important and really inspiring for a lot of our people.
Sure. And kudos for putting in place, you mentioned earlier, some mental health support you put in for your employees. So many companies have it, but it's not taken advantage of. So it sounds like you found a way to roll it out and to create a culture where people did take advantage of the offering. So
Most
kudos for
certainly.
that.
No,
Yeah,
thank you. Thank
great.
you. And I would say a lot of that just begins with recognizing it at the leadership level,
Mm,
and removing some of the stigmas. A couple of things that we did. One, we were really open in talking with people about the services and encouraging them to take advantage of that if they needed it. We messaged that on a regular basis, making sure that people knew it was okay if you need to step away for a little while or if you need. And then we did one at the global level, and we actually have this coming up for the second time next week. We declared a mental health day globally for all
yes.
100,000 plus employees. And honestly, I was amazed at the reaction. It was one of those where you didn't really know, were people going to really take the day off?
Right.
Were they not? With so much that we have going on, so many customers, what would really happen? And so on that day, I was continuously sort of checking my phone just to see if there were any emails coming in. And it was literally the quietest day of the year. And people came back and said, that was amazing. We took the day with my family. I got
Yeah.
outside. I did a hobby I've been ignoring. I did whatever it was. And the reaction was so positive. And we'll be doing it again globally next Tuesday. And it's just an amazing, because if you think about it, there is no other day where 100 and some thousand employees all
Mm,
get to say, today I don't have to worry about somebody calling me.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And that's what we created. It was tremendous.
It's terrific. Well, I hope you get to take next Tuesday off and don't feel like you have to check your emails all day now that you have the comfort of the history where it happened before. So that's terrific. Thack, I wanted to end our conversation because our time is coming short with the question that all of my guests. So in my consulting practice, my tagline is up and to the right because that's the spot on the 2x2 matrix where we always want to be, is that upper right hand box. And I just wonder if there was a moment in your career as a leader where you knew that you were moving up and to the right, you were moving in the right direction in order to have the career success that you've had.
Yeah. I'm sure there's been a couple. I think probably the biggest one that I would point to was a number of years ago, we were about to launch our new or latest version of our core ERP system, what we call S/4HANA. And at the
Mm-hmm.
time, our global head of sales, Rob Enslin, came to me and said, look, you've got a strong finance background. This is heavily focused on finance. Would you be interested in taking the responsibility for helping us launch this? And I didn't know a whole lot about the product at the time. It was, very early stage. We were just beginning to communicate on it. And then I sat and listened actually to our founder, Hasso Plattner, who was heavily involved in the underlying changes in technology, and listened to him multiple times talk about what the system was capable of and what it could do. And through that, it really dawned on me that we were making an amazing change that was going to change the finance profession forever. And I was being given the opportunity to step in and lead that launch, which was a huge bet on me and a huge vote of confidence from Rob in stepping in and doing that, and jumped in and did it. And I could just see from what this product was all about and the history of the company that this was going to be really game changing for me from a career point of view, a position. And it was. It was one of the best experiences I've had in my career. It was just incredible fun to go out and something, that size and launch something that's so changing in the marketplace and for the company. And it's just one of those where there was a lot of risk. I really looked at that and
Mm-hmm.
said, I don't know if I have the skills or if I'm really ready to go do this, but there's no way I'm passing this up. So we're
Great.
just going to go with it with everything and hope this works out. And fortunately it did. And,
Yeah.
just became a big stepping stone in my career.
Oh, I love that story. And I hope people really pay attention to the risk portion of this, right? Which is not to say, to take a risk where you don't have any of the skills that you need, but you had the basic set of skills. You have people that knew you and believed in you, and you had this giant opportunity and you went for it. And yeah, awesome. And here you are today. So
And here I am
terrific.
today.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Thack. I really appreciate you being with me here today and for your time and, of course, all of your candid dialogue with me. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you, Karen. It was great. I appreciate the invitation. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Take good care.
Mhm.